Great. I hope you guys are okay if I record this, just so I can remember this forever. Okay, good.
For sure. All right. My name's Blake Fletcher. Our project is Book Maps, and wherever you are on the map, we've got books. I just came up with that. I don't know if it's actually going to be.
That's hype. I love that.
But yeah.
Got books.
We got books. So what we've been using for today as our single source of truth is this Google Doc here. And actually before that, I'll talk about last week really briefly. So last week, we worked together pretty much the whole week, did mob programming. And with that, we were able to get to MVP, plus a little bit of OAuth as well. I think we got probably about 50% of the way, 60% of the way done OAuth. And then over the weekend, some internal APIs done as well. For this sprint, our goals are pretty much what's outlined on the rubric. So we broke it down to APIs, external or internal, authentication, and the front end. So far today, we've split up with two people on the back end, Scott and Henry. Jacob kind of taking a hybrid role as he implements Mapbox for map functionality, and then David and myself doing things on the front end. To zoom in a little bit on today and the rest of this week, Socket.io and Mapbox are the two APIs that we're really hoping to implement in the first half, and then Stripe and Cloudinary as well as SendGrid are in the second half. So we've kind of broken down each one into user stories, technical tasks, and so far so good. These are the internal APIs that we finished over the weekend. There's still a little bit more to do, but I think there's enough that we'll be able to connect most of these to the front end in the first half of the week. So also feeling pretty good about that. Authentication, I think we'll leave till the end of the week. Just with the front end and back end, that's kind of been a nice split. Whereas authentication, I think we'll probably get together and mob program again, which related to that, we don't really foresee too many blockers, but I think our game plan when we do see any of them and run into them is to do that mob programming again. Like it worked really well when we had 4 or 5 mines on the same thing. So that's the game plan. Again, for front end, the goal is 80 to 100% of the data models being present on the front end and pulling in data from the server side. And again, we broke it down to user stories. Originally, we were thinking that, so we're using Material UI for our design. And originally we were thinking that from day one, from hour one, we would use like all of their div tags and all of that stuff and class names. But we found that actually could be cumbersome and not really save time. So instead we're just doing like super basic divs, image tags, p tags, whatever needs to be done. As for now, this has kind of been more of the place where we go rather than Trello, but the workflow has kind of been when we settle on a task, we try to, as best as we can, migrate some of the checklist and to-dos over to Trello, and do that. But yeah, that's pretty much the plan. Feeling really good about it. And so yeah, open to feedback, questions, whatever.
Beautiful. Wonderful. Thank you, Blake.
Mm-hmm.
This is wonderful. The fact that you guys are, I feel you. In I believe your words were the source of truth in terms of how you're like connecting on all of this. I definitely kind of agree with you that using a Google Doc was a lot more straightforward than using Trello, and that's what you guys decided to go with. That's cool. The Trello is, I think, a little bit better for like a bird's eye view, but for the more immediate and like minute details of like, say, um, here are the different endpoints that we need to tackle, like one by one. Sometimes like Trello can be like not so good for that, because like you can just like put them all into one card on Trello, but it's not as obvious at a glance. So if that's what you're more comfortable with, then cool, I'm in. Uh, as long as you guys have some kind of Trello card that you can link to for the dev journal. If that means just kind of like translating it at the end of the week, and that's what you want to do, then fair enough. I'm also like really blown out of the water by how much you were able to crush during the weekend too. I know that you were like ahead of where you were supposed to be when we did the check-in on Friday. But yeah, hats off to put in work on the weekend. I think that's killer. I hope you guys don't ever. I know that sometimes you just get burned out by the end of the week, and I'm always a little bit weary of some teams that are just kind of like I've had experience with working with teams that there's one or two people that just want to go ham on the weekends, and then the other people are just sort of like, I don't have the option of doing that because I work on the weekends, or maybe I'm just kind of fried and my brain doesn't spin as fast as yours does. So I think, having said that, it's great that you guys want to put in work on the weekend, but just don't psych yourselves out or psych each other out about just if some person just needs a couple of days. Sometimes, man, sometimes you just need to just get off these screens. We're on the screen for sure, like 8, 9, 10 hours a day. So sometimes you do that shit for 10, 15 days in a row, man. It hurts after a while. And then you start getting discouraged about the, about these books. But yeah, overall, I'm hyped. I'm hyped about this. It looks wonderful, and I'm really taken with how much you guys already have finished. And the only question that really stuck out to me is your deployment is, what is your backend deployed on again?
It's on Heroku.
Heroku. Okay, cool. So I think it's going to be fairly straightforward for. I know that I really. I'm into the idea that you guys have split up like API tasks, but you're all jumping in like hive mind when something blocks out. I think that looking at that blueprint, maybe OAuth is probably in my eyes the only thing that seems to be like a common theme of people having to spend a little bit more time than they imagine. But I think if you got 4 or 5 sets of eyes on it, it's nothing. Especially with all of you, you seem very, very capable already with functional web technology. So I'm not very concerned. OAuth is pretty straightforward. It's just the technical debt that comes with it sometimes. Like the docs are a little bit tricky, but OAuth itself is it's relatively straightforward enough.
Mm-hmm.
The presentation was wonderful. I can tell you practiced it. It's definitely, you own this product. This is something that I can feel the confidence coming from you, and the facial expressions of everybody inside the room that you're definitely, you know what you're doing, you know where you're going with this, and you see a goal at the end of this week that's obtainable for you. And also the Google Doc you're working with, man, it's like I'm reading like a legal contract. He thought of everything. It's wonderful. So yeah, fantastic. This is great. The reason why I'm recording these isn't just so to. I guess I'm not Joshua anymore. Now I'm Ed. Part of the reason why I'm recording these is because Joshua wanted to have like, we're kind of searching for the one video presentation that we can put into a Notion doc for future cohorts of just like, okay, this is what you want to do for week 2. Like, stop talking too much, or you're not talking enough, or maybe you don't have that like animated GIF spinning in the Zoom window the entire time that you're presenting this or whatever. And so this is like definitely one that I want to send him because it's great. So yes, blah, 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 blah. Is there anything that I can answer? Any thoughts that you'd like to share with me?
One thing I was wondering about related to OAuth, how when you implemented, how did you do like sessions and permissions and like the authorization side of things, cookies, whatever?
A lot of it's baked in, honestly. Once you start digging into the OAuth API, you don't really have to You don't have to meditate too much on any of that stuff when it comes to the sessions, when it comes to how it's gonna maintain like grab identification via a cookie. That's part of the reason why OAuth is so killer, along with Auth0, is because of the fact that you don't really have to even think about that stuff, which kind of I think when it comes to frameworks or libraries, sometimes there's like this balance between just enough magic and just enough like you can look at the code and understand what's happening. But when it comes to passwords and credit cards, it's just one of those things where it's kind of, personally, I feel better if I feel fine if I don't understand how it's working. And it's just like, it's an opinionated library that tells me this is how you do sessions, this is how you're going to handle say third-party logins, so yeah, once you take into the documentation, I don't think you're going to have to consider that much. But if you have any questions, if you get stuck on it, I know you guys will all have all hands on deck with it, but I'm also available to help. You can always reach out to me. If John isn't able to figure it out, we're all part of the same squadron, so to speak. So once you get into the OAuth docs, they're pretty good. I'd say between Stripe and OAuth, those are the two documentations that I actually enjoyed reading on the internet. There's not a lot of them that are enjoyable, but those are two good ones.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Cool.
Is there anything else that I can do?
Not for my.
Yeah. Cool. Great. Awesome.
Right.
Okay.
Thanks, Ed.
Yeah, Henry, be careful. There's a dog behind you. I know you. Cool. All right, I got to bounce. This other group's getting antsy. So thank you, and you're looking great. Anything else I could do, you know where to get me. Otherwise, I'll see you on Friday.
Thanks, Ed.
Cool.
Awesome. Thanks,
See
Ed.
you guys.